Hi guys, today I'm going to talk to you about why Pilates is one of the best forms of exercise you can do when you're pregnant. There are many benefits to doing Pilates during pregnancy. It is one of the safest forms of exercise to do when you're pregnant, as it helps to stabilize our joints as well as prepare us for what happens postnatally after birth. It enables us to move our body in a safe way for both the mum and the baby, and it actually feels really good. There are many different forms of Pilates. You can do mat-based Pilates, reformer Pilates, and also clinical Pilates, which is run by a physiotherapist. Today, I'm going to go through some exercises that you can do on the mat for Pilates specific exercises, as well as some exercises on the reformer that you can do with a physiotherapist if you're doing clinical Pilates. I'm now going to take you through a series of mat work exercises that you can do while you're pregnant. Really easy, and all you need is a mat and a band. So using a TheraBand, we're going to pop the TheraBand around our knees and we're going to lie on our side. We want to make sure that our shoulders, hips and ankles are all in a line, and we've got a small gap between our underside and the mat. Pressing our heels together, we're going to open and close our top leg like a clamshell. This is a really good glute exercise to make sure we're stabilizing through our pelvis. Another good exercise with a band on at home when you're pregnant is bridging. Lying on our back, hip width apart. This is a really good one for glutes as well as spinal mobility. We want to tuck our tailbone under, bridging our bottom to the sky, a little bit of pressure out on that band, and then segmentally rolling ourselves back down. So our tailbone is the first thing to come off the bed, and then the last thing to touch the bed. You don't want to come up too high, just as high as you can control, and all of these exercises should be pain-free. When we're pregnant, we want to avoid doing sit-ups, crunches and curl-ups because it can increase the separation in our stomach. Instead, we can lie on our back on a mat, and recruiting through our deep abdominals and our pelvic floor, we can bring our legs up to tabletop, making sure that we're not doming too much, we've got control, not feeling this through our lower back, and then we can tap one heel down and then coming back up. We want to make sure, as we're increasing the load on our abdominals, that we're recruiting through our pelvic floor and our deep abdominals. After 20 weeks, we wouldn't do this exercise because we don't want to lie on our back. We want to avoid too many of these when we are pregnant. Another good core stabilizing exercise is the bird dog. We come onto all fours. We make sure that we have our neutral spine, recruiting through our deep abdominals and our pelvic floor. One arm reaches forward and one leg goes back. We come back down, tap them down, and repeat. What we don't want to do is we don't want to sag through our back. So we want to make sure that we're nice and stable through our 2 points that are on the ground. Every time we're adding the load, we're recruiting through our deep abdominals and our pelvic floor. Another exercise we can do at home with the band are squats. We want to stand hip width apart with the band just above our knees, and then we're going to sit back like we're sitting on a chair and then coming back up. Every time I'm squatting down, I'm recruiting through my deep abdominals and my pelvic floor, making sure that I'm not feeling this in my lower back and I'm not going too low for my knees. This is a really good one for our glutes. Just regularly engaging through our deep abdominals and pelvic floor is also a really good form of exercise for pregnant women to do at home. The stronger these muscles are in the lead up to birth, the better the recovery will be, and hopefully assist with the birth as well. So today I'm just going to go through some exercises that we would do in a pregnancy-based Pilates program using the reformer. So firstly, when we want to engage our deep abs, We want to make sure that we've tucked our tailbone under, and with our belly here, we're not sagging too low down towards the springs. So we're recruiting through our deep abdominals and our pelvic floor, and then we're gently pushing the carriage away, feeling a little pull in our deep abdominals, and then coming back up. We want to make sure that we're not holding our breath, because that will increase pressure on our pelvic floor, so breathing is super important. We're breathing out, drawing our pelvic floor and core on, and then coming back up. Another one for our deep abdominals and our pelvic floor is our knee stretch. So what we're doing is our forearms are on the bar, we're looking straight down, making sure we're not sagging through our lower back. Again, we're tucking our pelvis under, drawing our deep core and pelvic floor on, just pushing back gently with our knees, recruiting even more through our core and pelvic floor, and then coming back in. Going out, drawing our tummy muscles on, coming back in. Breathing out as the carriage goes out, activating through our core and pelvic floor, and coming back in. These exercises are really good for stabilizing through our deep abdominals, especially if we're having any pelvic girdle pain or pregnancy-related lower back pain, because we're stabilizing all our surrounding muscles and making sure that there's not an excessive amount of load going through these angry joints. It's important that we stay strong through our deep stabilizing glute muscles when we're pregnant, to make sure that we're protecting our pelvis, especially when we're spending time on one leg. Walking, climbing upstairs, and just activities of our daily life. So we're lying back, all the way back with our hips towards the end of the reformer. And we're popping the loop over our knee. We want to make sure that our hips are stacked and we've got a small gap between our underside and the bed. And then we're opening and closing our leg like a clam. Making sure we're not rotating through our pelvis, our deep core and pelvic floor on as well, keeping us stabilized through our lower back. And we're working through our top glute. Another good exercise is our chariot pull. So we're making sure that we've got our neutral spine, our tailbone is tucked under, and we are gently pulling on the straps just past our body, squeezing our postural muscles together, whilst also recruiting through our deep abdominals and pelvic floor. Pulling, drawing everything up, and then relaxing. Making sure that we're not pulling and arching our back too much, because we want all our stabilized muscles to be working. This is also a really good exercise to do postnatally as well, because lots of women find that they get quite stiff through their upper back, especially with breastfeeding and carrying their new baby. After 20 weeks during pregnancy, it's recommended that you don't do exercises lying on your back. The great thing about clinical Pilates on the reformer is that we can still do exercises lying down whilst propping you up on the wedge. We can do leg work, single leg work, which also requires a little bit of core and pelvic floor activation, so that we're not rotating through our pelvis. Other leg. And we can also do some bridge work, even just some gentle bridge work for a little bit of spinal mobility. Of course, if women aren't feeling comfortable lying on their back, we can always do standing, kneeling, heaps of different exercises instead that have the same benefit. When exercising during pregnancy, we discourage women from doing lots of curl-ups and sit-ups, because what it does is it increases the intra-abdominal pressure on our already separating abdominal muscles and can actually increase the amount of separation. There's a natural amount of separation that occurs during pregnancy to make space for the baby. However, if we keep curling up and putting too much load through those muscles, it's actually going to weaken and perhaps make it a harder recovery. There are other exercises we can do that still activate our abdominal muscles without increasing that pressure. So lying down on the wedge again, especially if we're past 20 weeks. Gently recruiting through our deep abdominals and our pelvic floor. One leg comes to tabletop and then the other leg. And then our arms are gently coming down by our side. Every time I'm bringing my arms down, I'm increasing the activation of my deep core and my pelvic floor, keeping my back relaxed and making sure that my stomach isn't doming. You'll know if you're doing the exercise incorrectly because your tummy will form a big dome shape, and that indicates that it's too much load. Another really good exercise to ensure that we're engaging through our glutes is our standing leg series. So, coming up like this, hands on our hips, we're gently pushing the carriage out and back in. I'm making sure my tailbone's tucked under. As I push the carriage out, I'm drawing up through my pelvic floor and deep abdominals. We have straight leg. We have bent leg. Making sure my core and pelvic floor are engaged, really using my left glute to keep me stable. Another one of our standing glute series are our squats. Pushing the carriage out where we can control it and squatting down and up. Trying to keep the carriage as still as we can. Every time I'm squatting down, I'm drawing up through my pelvic floor and making sure that my glutes are engaging and I'm not feeling this through my lower back. This is a really effective one, especially if women aren't suffering from pelvic girdle pain or pelvic instability. It can be a really good preventative.